Welcome back. In the previous presentation, we saw the basics of image processing, and I hope the discussion was clear to all of you. In the next part of my presentation, I'd be covering a few applications related to image processing. So here we go. So image processing has several applications in almost all the fields. I'll be only covering few of these applications. Some of these applications are outcomes of either BTech or MTech projects in the institution, and also the research work that is carried out in the institution. The first application that comes to our mind in image processing is space research. A lot of information is being captured by the cameras on board a satellite, and it would be sent to the Earth station. Because of atmospheric variations, the images that we would have received would have undergone many degradations. There may be noise in the image, or the image would have been blurred, and the resolution may be less. So there is a need for us to remove this blur, which we call it as deblurring, and remove the noise, which we call it as denoising. And there is also a need to increase the resolution of the image, and this is called de-aliasing. So you can see here the left image here is a noisy image captured by a satellite camera, and what you see here is an image which has the noise removed. So simple filtering technique can perform this operation. Let us look at one by one and maybe list a few projects that are carried out under this area. So the first is image deblurring. The goal here is to recover or retrieve the original scene from a given degraded observation. So as I mentioned, a satellite image would have captured a noisy or a degraded image. How I can remove the blur and get a clean version of the image. So this is sort of an inverse process, but there are several issues in this. As I mentioned, the blur operator, if it is a spatially invariant, then I think by using simple deconvolution technique, we can remove the blur. So because if the system is linear and shift invariant, we can definitely characterize the system by using impulse response, and thereby deconvolution operation becomes very easy. But the challenges for us is many times this blur will be spatially variant. Also, blur may not be known to us. We will not be given the information about blur. What is a model for the blur, and how much is the severity of the blur? The information is not known to us. So it's completely unknown, and so we normally call this operation as blind deconvolution, because it's almost like we are blindfolded in terms of the details about the degradations. So, and it is spatially variant. So if it is spatially variant, deconvolution operation is not so easy. So what you see here is some result that we have obtained as a part of an MTech project work carried out by one of my students, Varsha Vijay, where she worked on image deblurring techniques here. Uh, in fact, we have made an assumption that there is a step type of blur, which means the blur severity is less in 50% of the image, and it is more in the 50%. So you can notice that in this Lena image, if it is blurred by such type of step blur, this portion is severely blurred, less blurred, whereas the right portion is severely blurred. So it is spatially variant, and you can observe another image where the blur is increased. Okay, so such images, when they are applied to the deblurring algorithms, it should yield an image. So this is the restored image that we have got. So you can observe that the image is almost close to the original Lena image. Okay, so this is a challenge that we tried addressing in one of the MTech projects. The next concept is image denoising. What if an image is corrupted with noise? Okay, so the goal in denoising is recovering the original scene from a given noisy image. Now, what are the challenges here? The first of all, noise is random. All of us know that noise can only be modeled as a random phenomena. It is unknown, and you cannot make an assumption for this noise to be parametric. What I meant by parametric noise is if I assume noise to be Gaussian, then I think you will be left with only very few parameters, particularly the variance and maybe the mean. It is easy to estimate such parameters. But in several scenarios, for example, in medical imaging, most of this noise that is corrupting the image will be non-Gaussian. That means it will not be parametric, it will be non-parametric. So estimating such type of noise and fitting a model to it and then removing it is a challenge. So there are several issues with respect to image denoising. So there are many papers that have tried removing noise under various assumptions. And we have also made an attempt as a part of the research work by uh, Arvind BN, who happens to be my first PhD student, the main coordinator of this particular workshop. So he worked on image denoising and tried addressing this both in the spatial domain and in the frequency domain. So we have particularly used the transform domain here. Various transform domain techniques are used. And Arvind actually used a concept called multi-spinning. You can get further information from this journal, International Journal of Intelligent Systems, which we published in 2012, and also in another journal which we recently published. So you can obtain more information. What you should notice here is these are the results. In fact, the noise may not be visible to you on this small screen. So this is actually a real noisy image. We actually got this from a professor from Sweden University, Sweden. The, his name is Dr. Hassan Flay, who is from the Larna University. So this is a original image, real image. So I don't know the type of the noise. We don't know the model for the noise. So we tried fitting a Gaussian model and tried removing it by using multi-spinning, and we could see that the results are better. So the third restoration technique is actually an extended version. We call it as a super resolution. We also call this as what is known as de-aliasing operation. Uh, See, normally resolution of an image, spatial resolution, is a quantity that all of us want to be very particular. And the spatial resolution, it depends on the number of pixels, and the number of pixels is decided by the number of photo detectors that are used in the camera. So higher the resolution, definitely the cost will go up. And also, if you want higher resolution, it means that the area of your photo detector has to be reduced. And in fact, we have already reached the minimum size, which is usually 50 micrometers square. So since we have already attained this, the only solution for this is, can we just use an alternative to enhance the, in fact, the spatial resolution of an image? So the answer is yes. We use a technique called super resolution. Where can we find application for this area is, one is to have a very nice, pleasing view of the image. We usually call it as the aha feeling when we see an image. And medical diagnostics, particularly when you want to locate some very important problem in any part of the images that we have captured, resolution is an important criteria. For example, You could see a low resolution image here where this problem that you see in the images is not very clear, whereas a high resolution image can clearly indicate this, which would be helpful to a doctor. Third application is in satellite imaging. As we saw, satellite imaging, we normally will have low quality cameras that been in fact on board the satellite. So can we increase the resolution of this images after we receive it at the ground station? Um, because high resolution, you need lot of bandwidth to transmit the data. So can we capture at low resolution and increase the resolution at the destination is the question that we are answering here. Fourth one is traffic surveillance. uh, you know uh, at the traffic points, cameras are being installed to monitor the happenings in the junction. So usually low quality cameras are installed there, and these cameras capture the images, and then you can increase the resolution and probably make some decision based on the maybe the situation that has happened in the particular traffic point. So, in fact, I actually did some work related to super resolution as a part of my research work under the guidance of Dr. N. Rajagopalan from IIT Madras. So, what we did was we captured some video of a road actually from a height of about 20 meters. Um, and the intention here was to improve the resolution of the images so that the license plate can be read. Let me show the video. Okay, so you can observe that there is a vehicle moving here, and the intention is to actually read the license plate of this particular vehicle. As you can see, it is not readable now. So we tried using the concept of super resolution and tried developing some algorithms which are robust and which are also efficient. And you can observe that the result that we have got, we used a model called discontinuity adaptive Markov random field model. And as you can see the result here, you can read this license plate number now as compared to the low resolution image. Another example is given here where our results are much better compared to the other methods. So for further information about this work, I think you can refer to any of these two papers, particularly the second paper where these results are listed. um, you will get more information about this. The next application all of us know is biometrics. Biometrics has become so important these days for recognizing people. So for everything, including our Aadhaar registration, and even for many bank applications, biometric is being used. So biometric recognition and verification is a challenge, and a lot of papers have been produced in this area. And in fact people are using various biometrics for recognizing people. For example, fingerprint, hand is used, iris is used, face, many physiological parameters are used. Even behavioral parameters are also used, like how you use the keyboards and the keystroke that you use, your signature. And people also use voice for recognizing person. Okay, so biometric these days is very popular, and I think very matured area of research in image processing. Now, what I recently noticed is now the importance, because of the present pandemic situation of COVID-19, contactless biometrics has become more relevant now. So people want to capture the data. For example, all of you know that any institution or any company, if they are using fingerprint recognition systems, now they have actually momentarily or temporarily stopped it. The reason, because the person will come in contact with the acquisition device, and different people are using it, so there is possibility that this COVID gets spread. So what they have done is now alternate methods are being sort of. Okay, so now people are working on many contactless biometrics where uh, you can use recognition systems without you being in contact with the acquisition devices. So there are challenges, I think, for the young researchers. I think COVID-19, even though it's a pandemic and the whole world is suffering, we can still exploit the situation and try to develop some good algorithms which will help at this pandemic situation. So all of us know that fingerprint verification system is one of the basic method of biometric, which authenticates a user based on the fingerprint. And normally the expectation is low cost cameras are used for capturing the data. One of the applications that I noticed or I observed is a rural ATM machine which was developed at IIT Madras. The idea here is um, see, when you want to use ATM, you have to swipe your card and you have to actually press the, in fact, password. So typing the password, rural mass, sometimes they may forget it or they may want to write it on the card itself. So if they are losing the card, they are also losing the password. To avoid this, IIT Madras came up with an ATM machine wherein instead of the password is the fingerprint. So let me just show you the video. So in fact, this is the machine and you have the fingerprint scanner here. So you can just swipe the card and give the fingerprint and you can authenticate, the person is authenticated and you can draw the money. So that is the idea in this particular project. And in our department, we also tried using it for attendance monitoring. So students were asked to develop a model which can be used to take the attendance of individual in a classroom. So a simple device like this was developed, which will be circulated to the students from one end to the other end. So the students are supposed to just give their fingerprint in the fingerprint scanning machine, and the data is captured. So they need to just match their data. Okay, so provision is given to enroll the students in the beginning, and of course to remove the data once the class complete. In fact, the semester gets over. So the students' job is when the machine comes to them, they should give their fingerprint, press the match here. So the fingerprint gets matched with the database that is already stored. So if the student is a genuine student of that class, the attendance gets monitored and it gets displayed saying that the attendance accepted or okay. And the students have also given an EEPROM here, a memory point where it stores all the data, which can be taken and inserted into an EEPROM reader, and the data can be ported onto a computer, and maybe further decision on calculating the attendance could be done. So this is a simple model that was developed by a set of students during their BE project at uh, our department. The next is face authentication. I think this is also a beaten area. A lot of work has happened in the area of face authentication, which usually uses eye detection and then uses a weighted score from the facial features and recognizes the person. So that is a principle of face recognition. But now the challenge, I think that is what I told you in the previous discussion also. COVID has brought in some new challenges that could be addressed uh, by researchers. So now all of us are actually wearing masks, and any recognition system that we have developed, which recognizes the complete face, fails now because we are wearing mask. So just to give our face, it's not wise to remove the mask, and which may lead to the problem. So the idea is, can we recognize the person even with the mask? So that means partial face will be available or will be visible to the camera. So the challenge is we should still recognize. So COVID has opened this challenge to us, and in fact, You can see that a paper has already been published in March 2020, uh, where they have done the masked face recognition data set and application. So you can probably have a look at this paper. And I think similar work could be tried by researchers, where with mask also it is possible for us to recognize the face. So we can exploit the situation for developing such new gadgets. Some of the projects that used this biometric recognition system were developed in our department. One very important project that was developed was a smart ration shop. Um, what the students did here is, ration shops, you need to go stand in a queue, wait till the uh, things are served to you. So what these people did, it is just like an ATM machine where anytime you can go and probably prove yourself that you are an authenticated person and take the, uh, in fact, groceries or whatever you want. So this is a machine. This will be the dispenser that you have. So they would have, these are the containers where they would have stored it. And the person goes and in fact, here they use face recognition system. So they'll go and show the face to the camera. It recognizes whether he or she is the genuine person, and you can just feed whatever you want, and the dispenser automatically opens and gives you the commodity, whatever you are expecting. The second recognition system that our students developed was a hand gesture recognition, where different gestures of the individual are recognized, and for each gesture you can perform some operation. For example, assume that a layman wants to use a computer and open some applications on the computer. So maybe for a gesture like this, he wants to open Google. For a gesture like this, he wants to open maybe IEEE Explore. For a gesture like this, he wants to open maybe SIT website. So these gestures could be used for recognizing, in fact, whatever commands that he or she wants to spell out if he cannot speak. Okay, so such applications were developed, and in fact, as a part of research, now we are trying to use 3D information uh, to actually get more details about the gesture. And this is a part of the research work that is happening now. And all of us know robotics is one of the applications that we have seen and which is so prominent now. Uh, One important requirement is, suppose if a robot wants to climb stairs, that means it has to go up the staircase or come down the staircase. It has to actually recognize the depth and then make use of that information to actually move. So such efforts are being done. Let me just show you this video. So you can observe here the robot is actually trying to go up the ladder. So what it will do is it will just rotate its head. So the camera captures the scene here and calculates uh, the height of the step, and action is taken. Um, the challenge now, I think all of you would have seen, one of the places where this COVID is being spread is in hospitals. Particularly, even the doctors are also getting affected uh, at this scenario. So people have already come out with robots which can serve the COVID patients with all the care. So there is no chance of any attack to the individual. So I think again, COVID has brought in some challenges that could be addressed by the researchers. Okay, so in our department, our students actually developed a wheelchair which can be, in fact, moved based on the gesture. You can observe here the girl is actually showing the gesture to move or stop. Okay, so different gestures can be used. Suppose if uh, if the person cannot okay operate, you can just give the gestures here. So many such applications can be thought of. So robotics has also has a lot of challenges um, in research. So one can address these issues. And advanced cameras now they have actually used a lot of enhancement techniques. For example, if a video is captured by while moving on a vehicle, there will be a lot of in fact vibrations. So there is a need for stabilizing such type of video. So there is an area called video stabilization. And I think nowadays all of you know that cameras have got the capability of generating a panoramic view. So I cannot capture the whole scene in one frame. So you can capture multiple frames of the scene, and a mosaic of that can be generated. So video mosaicing, video stabilization, all these are the various applications that are using image processing. Another example is in traffic monitoring, particularly for advanced driver assistance. People are looking for some assistance. For example, when a vehicle is moving on a road and he has not noticed the signboard, anything can happen. So there is a possibility that such things can be avoided if we develop some advanced driver assistance systems. So one such attempt is made as a part of an MTech project in our department. Uh, so this is actually an automatic traffic okay signal detection system. So the camera will be fit into the vehicle here. So we are actually testing this live on a road. So the camera is actually fit here. It will be actually seeing the scene, and particularly it will be trying to identify such license plates, such traffic signal points, recognizes the characters, and based on the signal, information will be given, audio information will be given to the driver. Okay. So since it is a recorded video, I don't think you can hear the voice. Actually, it is telling that there is a crossroad ahead, there is a humps ahead. So driver can quickly take action and maybe slow down, or he can definitely make use of this information. So if you want more details about this particular work, you can refer to this paper. Swati M is the MTech student who worked on this area. Hopefully, you can get better information. Now, many okay applications like sorting different types of bearings, sorting different types of pencils, even for sorting rice. That means to remove maybe the colored rice and also to separate and clean the rice. People are using image processing. So you can see that image processing is finding wide applications. And in fact, one such sorting machine that was developed in the Department of Instrumentation at SIT was an Areca nut sorting machine. So, the idea is you need to separate this Areca nut into different colors. In fact, they do it by using the color information. So, students have actually developed this sorting machine where automatically the Areca nut is sorted based on the color information. So this is Areca. So manually, in fact, you have to appoint so many laborers to do this operation, to classify them into something like Charlie, which is of this color, and this, it's actually Charlie. Then this is called Billy or Go-To, and this is actually Coca. So like this, you can separate. As you can see, the color is changing. So the students actually developed an algorithm based on this color information. So this is actually the whole system. You can see the conveyor belt taking each of this, and then The camera captures and recognizes depending on the color. Actually, it removes or it separates them into different bins. That is actually the project that was carried out. And we also used image processing to actually identify the pedestrians who are crossing the road. This is again will be helpful for the driver assistance. One of my MTech students, he actually worked on this. So when we are traveling in the road, and if suppose suddenly a pedestrian crosses, then it will be detected and the driver will be prompted. So it would probably help the driver to take action immediately. You can get further information about this work in the paper. The Anand Kumar is actually an MTech student who worked on this area. So information can be seen from this paper. Um, See, sky is the limit, I should say, because see, even in traffic, sorry, in road condition also, image processing is being used. For example, you want to identify the potholes in a road and maybe take action, or maybe take some information from this. See, sometimes what happens is when you are trying for reaching a place, we will use Google Maps. So Google Map normally gives the traffic conditions, and the road conditions will not be given. So if this information of road conditions is also updated to the Google Map, then it would be easy for me to identify which road is better. Because some roads are in fact uh, um, closer to us, but still sorry, some roads will take us to the destination quickly, but sometimes what happens is the road condition may not be good. So you can not just rely only on the distance, you should also rely on the road condition to travel. So what is done here is the images captured, such potholes are detected, and this information will be updated to the Google Map images, which will definitely help the driver in knowing which road is better. So one batch of UG students actually worked, Ajay Darshan and others. They worked on this project as a final year project. And in big malls, counting people, knowing at any point of time how many have entered and how many have gone out, people counting is important. So one group of students worked on people counting, where we actually just tried counting the people based on the head movement. So the camera will be kept above, okay, maybe a door. So the movement of the head movement of the person will be counted. Based on that, it will identify how many are inside the auditorium or inside the mall or wherever it is. Again, this is a part of a BE project carried out by Chandan and Batch. Another application is helping probably the handicapped people. One of the okay project that we did is an artificial vision for a blind person. So we did two versions of this. One batch worked wherein the information is fed through a keyboard. Uh, you can see the key button array here. Whereas this was modified by the next batch, where instead of pressing the keyboard here, the person can speak to the mic, so that whatever he wants, it can be obtained. So two groups worked on it, Rishav Kumar and Batch, the first version, and Shweta M. So what is the idea here is a person, maybe a blind person staying home, has to be in fact attended by somebody always. And in this point of time, sometimes it is very difficult. He may be alone, he or she may be alone. So can we have an assistance device or an artificial vision wherein at least he can meet the basic needs? For example, fetching a water bottle, or identifying a chair and sitting, or using the restroom. So such simple assistances can be given through image processing. So students used actually Raspberry Pi here, and the camera captures the scene, and decision will be taken based on okay, what is the command that is given. So this is a project video where they used image processing for this application under my guidance. Deepthi Jain and Shweta Thakur, they are the students. So this team actually worked on the project. So as you can see, we are actually testing it real time, wherein the person is actually blindfolded so that she can not see anything in the vicinity. So she is now searching for some okay requirement. I think in this demo, she is trying to search for a bottle. So you can see that actually the bottle image is being captured by the Raspberry Pi camera. So it is actually guiding her, saying that the bottle is at the center, left or right. Based on that instruction, she could go and pick the bottle. And so like this, a different command can be given. So she is giving the command using this microphone, and this command will be recognized, and the camera will actually capture the images, and it will guide the person. So I think now she is trying to find a chair. Again, she has given the command as chair. Now it starts guiding her to reach the chair. Okay, so that is how any blind person at home alone could be given some assistance by using image processing. Again, some information is available in these papers for anybody uh, to further take it up. Maybe the last application is medical applications. As I already told you, medical imaging, in fact, so advanced now, a lot of image processing applications are available. And you know, there are many modalities in medical images, MRI, X-ray, OCT, and you will have chest X-ray, so ultrasound images. So many modalities are available, and the challenges here is each of this imaging technique introduces different type of noise, and this noise is not okay parametric. So you will have different model for this noise. So there are lots of challenges in medical applications. So this is the block diagram how okay this biomedical image analysis happens, where a radiologist will be given information by using the different images captured of a patient and different image processing algorithms. So in each of this stage there are challenges. So this is the different modalities: CT, MRI, ultrasound, PET, SPECT, etc. And you will have a lot of scope for pre-processing this data. You may have to enhance, denoise, perform some filtering. You have to segment properly, identify the region of interest, and then you have to detect the objects of your interest. Then probably you can just make a pattern classification and take a diagnostic decision. So this is the basic block diagram of a biomedical image analysis system. um, One of my PhD students, Renukalata, she worked on this biomedical image analysis and developed some okay novel algorithms where we could use this for classifying the glaucoma disease using the multi-class support vector machine. And there is a very nice review that we have written, a review on biomedical image analysis, which covers all the modalities and all the challenges that we'll have. So those of you are interested in biomedical area, I think this review paper would help. So you can refer to these papers for further clarifications. So I think um, these are some of the applications, I should say, I have listed in my presentation. And as I already told you, there are several applications in image processing, lot of challenges, lot of openings for researchers to take up and probably produce some nice results. Okay, so to actually conclude, I think this image is worth okay showing here, because this image says sky is the limit. Okay, so in image processing, sky is the limit according to me. So there is lot of scope, and I think the people who are interested in pursuing it further, you can definitely get lot of information from internet, and go ahead. So all the best to all of you. I think um, I have covered most of the applications that we were working on, and it's nice talking to you. Even though I could not see you, at least I'm hoping that my presentation would at least okay kindle some of you in taking up some interesting work in this area. So once again, thank you for watching this, and mm, okay, listening to this presentation. And again, I would like to thank the organizers of this faculty development program, and in particular Dr. Arvind, who is in fact the reason for why I am here. So thank you, and all the best to all the participants.